Most people think that $500,000 is just a nice round number. They see it as a milestone, a pat on the back, or maybe a down payment on a house in a neighborhood they can't really afford. But they're wrong. They are fundamentally, catastrophically wrong. $500,000 is not a savings account. It is not a safety net. It is a living, breathing, tireless entity. It is your first full-time, 24/7, 365-day-a-year employee who never asks for a raise, never takes a sick day, and never complains about the coffee in the break room. I'm King, and I am a wealth architect, and today I am going to show you the exact moment where the math of your life transforms into a miracle. I'm going to show you the inflection point where you stop being a servant to the dollar and the dollar starts being a servant to you. If you are tired of the hamster wheel, if you are tired of looking at your bank account and feeling like you're running a race in waist-deep water, then you need to pay attention to every single syllable of this video. This isn't motivation, it's a blueprint for a prison break. Subscribe and like this video right now because once we cross this threshold, there is no going back to the old way of thinking. You are about to meet the most important employee you will ever hire, your own capital. Let's look at the hard, cold logic of this. Let's look at the meat on the bone. In the United States today, the median individual income hovers somewhere around $45,000 to $50,000 a year. Think about what a human being has to do to earn that money. They have to wake up when an alarm tells them to, they have to sit in traffic for an hour, they have to trade 40, 50, maybe 60 hours of their finite human life every single week just to gross that $50,000 after Uncle Sam takes his cut, after the health insurance is paid, after the commute costs are deducted. That person is left with a fraction of their time and a fraction of their soul. Now, let's look at the invisible employee. If you have $500,000 invested in a standard diversified portfolio, say the S&P 500, and we use a conservative inflation-adjusted return of 8%, do you know what that account does while you are sleeping? It generates $40,000. It just makes it out of thin air, out of the collective labor of the greatest companies on earth. That $500,000 is effectively a person working a full-time administrative job for you, but with one massive advantage: this employee doesn't eat. This employee doesn't need a car. This employee doesn't pay rent. Every single cent of that $40,000 is work that you didn't have to do. When you have $10,000, an 8% return is $800. That's a nice weekend in Vegas, but it doesn't change your life. It's a rounding error. When you have $100,000, that 8% is $8,000. It's a great boost, maybe it covers your groceries for the year, but you're still tethered to the desk. You're still a slave to the paycheck, but $500,000? That is the magic number. That is the escape velocity. This is the point where the growth of your money starts to dwarf your ability to contribute to it. If you're saving $2,000 a month, that's $24,000 a year. You're working hard for that. But your $500,000 portfolio is growing by $40,000 a year just by sitting there. The money is now working harder than the man. The invisible employee is now outperforming the boss. This is the rule of 72 in its most aggressive form. At this stage, your money will double every 7 to 9 years without you ever adding another dime. Hourly from 0 to 500,000 is a mountain climb. It's a slog, it's blood, sweat, and ramen noodles. It might take you 15 years of grueling discipline, but the jump from 500,000 to 1 million, that usually happens in about 7 years, and you don't have to do anything. The momentum is already there. You've built the snowball and it's now an avalanche. Most people quit when the snowball is the size of a grapefruit because it's heavy and it's moving slowly. They don't realize that they are just a few rotations away from it becoming a force of nature that can level a forest. But let's get away from the spreadsheets for a second. Let's talk about how this feels. I want you to imagine a Sunday afternoon at Costco. We've all been there. It's crowded, the fluorescent lights are humming, and you're pushing a cart that's getting heavier by the minute. You get to the checkout line and you see the total. $450 for what? Some eggs, some chicken, some toilet paper, and a giant jar of pickles you didn't really need? You feel that tightening in your chest. That's the inflation anxiety. You've heard on the news that eggs are up 30%, that gas is up, that rent is skyrocketing. For most Americans, that $450 bill isn't just money, it's a theft of their future. It represents 10 hours of their life that they'll never get back. They look at that receipt and their heart rate ticks up. They worry about the what ifs. What if the car breaks down? What if the kid needs braces? What if the boss is in a bad mood on Monday? They are living in a state of constant low-grade financial terror. Now, imagine that same person in that same Costco line, but they've hit the $500,000 milestone. They look at that $450 total, and while they're waiting for the receipt to print, they pull out their phone. They open their brokerage app. They see that the market had a boring day. It was up maybe 0.5%. On a $500,000 portfolio, 0.5% is $2,500. In the time it took them to walk from the rotisserie chickens to the checkout, their invisible employee earned enough money to pay for that entire cart of groceries 5 times over. Do you understand the psychological shift that occurs in that moment? The anxiety evaporates. The eggs are too expensive conversation becomes irrelevant. You aren't just buying food, you are buying peace of mind. You aren't just spending money, you are observing a system that sustains you. And then comes Monday morning. The alarm goes off, but it sounds different. You go into the office and your manager, the one who thinks he owns your time because he pays your salary, calls you into a meeting. He tells you that the team needs to pull a double this weekend. He tells you that everyone needs to lean in and sacrifice. Before you hit 500,000, you would have felt a pit in your stomach. You would have said, "Yes, sir," because you have a mortgage, you have a car note, and you have exactly 3 weeks of savings in the bank. You were a hostage, but now you have walking away money. You don't have to scream, you don't have to be rude, you just have this quiet internal confidence. You look him in the eye and you realize that your invisible employee makes more than his entire department's bonus pool. You realize that you are there by choice, not by necessity. That is the true value of $500,000. It isn't about buying a Ferrari. It's about the fact that your heart rate doesn't go up when someone threatens your livelihood. It's the ability to say no without checking your bank balance first. It is the restoration of your personal sovereignty. So how do we get there? How do we build this machine? Most people fail because they try to be too clever. They try to find the hidden gem stock or the next meme coin. That's not how you build an empire, that's how you gamble. Step 1 is the engine, low-cost index funds. I'm talking VTI, VOO, maybe some SCHD for that dividend backbone. Why? Because you aren't trying to beat the market, you are trying to own the world. When you own the S&P 500, you have the 500 most profitable, most aggressive, most innovative companies on the planet working for you. Apple is your employee, Microsoft is your employee, Amazon is your employee. Every time someone buys an iPhone or clicks order on a Prime package, a fraction of a cent travels through the ether and lands in your account. That is the engine. It is simple, it is boring, and it is the most sophisticated wealth building tool ever created. Step 2 is plugging the silent leaks. You have to understand the tax system in America. If you are just putting money in a standard brokerage account, you are letting the IRS take a bite out of your employee's paycheck every single year. You need to be thinking about Roth conversions. You need to be thinking about tax loss harvesting. This is the legal cheating that the wealthy use. Tax loss harvesting is simple. When the market dips and some of your holdings are in the red, you sell them to realize the loss. Immediately buy a similar asset to stay invested, and use that loss to wipe out your tax bill on your gains. You are essentially telling the government, "I lost money," while your portfolio stays exactly the same. You keep more, they get less. At $500,000, these small optimizations can save you $10,000 a year in taxes. That's $10,000 that stays in your engine, compounding forever. Step 3 is the lifestyle creep trap. This is where most high earners die. They get a raise and they buy a BMW. They get a bonus and they upgrade to a bigger house. They are essentially feeding their invisible employee to a bunch of shiny metal and wood. You have to maintain the gap. If you make $100,000 and you live on $60,000, you have a $40,000 a year army. If you make $200,000 and you live on $190,000, you are poorer than the guy making $60,000. You have to treat your savings like a non-negotiable bill. Pay yourself first isn't a cute slogan, it's the law of the land. Before you pay the mortgage, before you pay for Netflix, you pay your invisible employee. Step 4 is the bridge account. If you want to retire early, I'm talking FIRE, financial independence, retire early. You can't just have money in a 401k that you can't touch until you're 60. You need a bridge. You need a taxable brokerage account that can fund your life while you wait for your retirement accounts to unlock. Or you need to master the Roth ladder. This is a strategy where you move money from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, wait 5 years, and then withdraw the principal tax-free and penalty-free. It requires planning, it requires a calendar, and it requires the discipline to think 5 years ahead of everyone else. And finally, step 5, the mental game. This is the hardest part. To get to 500,000, you will have to watch your account evaporate at some point. There will be a month where the market drops 20%. If you have 500,000, you will see $100,000 vanish in 30 days. That is more than most people make in a year. Your lizard brain will scream at you to sell. Your friends will tell you the world is ending. The news will have red banners across the screen. This is the test. This is where the architects are separated from the tourists. You have to zoom out. You have to look at a 30-year chart of the S&P 500 and realize that every crash in history looks like a tiny blip on a line that only goes up and to the right. You have to have the stomach to look at a $100,000 loss and say, the stocks are on sale, and then buy more. If you can't do that, you don't deserve the freedom. The market is a machine that transfers money from the impatient to the patient. Be the patient one. When you reach this model, your existence is no longer dependent on the permission of others. Let that sink in. You don't need a performance review to know you're doing well. You don't need a cost of living adjustment from your company to keep up with inflation. You have bypassed the system. There are 10 things you will never have to worry about again once you have your invisible employee fully operational. You won't worry about the price of eggs. You won't worry about a surprise car repair. You won't worry about being laid off during a recession. You won't worry about your boss's mood swings. You won't worry about whether you can afford the good health insurance. You won't worry about being a burden on your children in your old age. You won't worry about missing a family vacation. You won't worry about saying what you actually think in a meeting. You won't worry about lacing up your shoes when you're 70 years old to go stand behind a cash register. And most importantly, you won't worry about the most precious resource you have, time. Time is the only thing we can't make more of. We are all born with a certain number of heartbeats, and most of us spend those heartbeats trading them for green pieces of paper. But at $500,000, you start buying your heartbeats back. You start owning your Tuesday mornings, you start owning your Thursday afternoons. You are no longer renting your life, you are the landlord. This isn't about being rich in the way that Hollywood portrays it. It's not about gold chains and private jets. It's about the quiet dignity of knowing that you are okay. It's about the stillness in your house when you wake up and realize that while you were dreaming, your money was out there hitting the gym, doing push-ups, and bringing home more money. Where are you on this path? Are you at the 0 to 100,000 slog? Keep pushing. The first 100 is a nightmare. It's the hardest money you will ever make. Are you at the 300,000 mark? Starting to see the momentum? Don't get distracted. Don't buy the reward car yet. You are so close to the tipping point. Or are you standing at the $500,000 summit, realizing for the first time that you could stop today and still be okay? If you are there, take a breath, look around. The air is thinner up here, but the view is incredible. You have built something that most people only dream of. You have built a legacy. This video is your blueprint, but a blueprint is just paper until you start moving dirt. Don't just watch this and go back to scrolling. Go look at your accounts. Calculate your invisible employee's salary. See how far you are from that $40,000 a year growth. If you're not there, ask yourself why. Is it your income? Is it your spending? Is it your fear of the market? Identify the bottleneck and break it. You are the architect of your own freedom. Nobody is coming to save you. No politician is going to fix your retirement. No lucky break is going to land in your lap. You have to build this brick by brick, dollar by dollar, until the wall is too high for the world to climb over. In my next video, I'm going to take this a step further. I'm going to show you what happens when your invisible employee gets promoted to Chief Executive Officer. I'm going to show you the shift from $500,000 to $2 million and how you can manage a fortune that grows by 6 figures every single year while you travel the world. You don't want to miss that. The game changes again at that level, and you need to be prepared for the power that comes with it. This is the journey of a lifetime. This is the only game worth playing. I'm King. Keep building. Stay disciplined. Stay hungry. I will see you at the top. Subscribe, like, and leave a comment below with your number. Tell me what your invisible employee is earning right now. Let's hold each other accountable. The climb is hard, but the summit is worth it. See you in the next one.